He says this, a good friend of mine who's conservative right-wing Republican just sent me this. You start messing around with people's investments and 401ks and you're going to lose support fast. So here we go. Here's a conversation. Dude, no shit. I'm voting Democrat. Legit thought I'd never say that. Newsom for sure. Any Dem in Congress. Just insane this is happening. Can I take a screenshot of that and post it? Will not include your name or anything. Sure. Even if Trump reverses course Monday, it's too late. Can't trust him again. Hauls out some random chart with made up numbers and triggers the worst 3-day crash since 1980s? Done. Again, this is like a right-wing commentator dude saying this. But I saved for you my favorite for the last one part here. Okay. So there's an article in the Rolling Stone, and they talk to high-level Republicans close to the White House, right? Here's one of the lines in the Rolling Stone article. I am not willing to go public yet, but I will say this. I don't know if I would be this worried about what will happen to the economy if Bernie fucking Sanders were president. One big Trump and Republican Party donor says. That's how bad this is, and there's very little time to fix the situation and turn the ship around. A high-level Republican close to the White House saying, you know, I think we'd even be better off with Bernie in there compared to what Trump is doing right now. Damn. Now, in that world, you need to understand that's heresy, right? That's heresy in this world. You don't, to them, talking positively about Bernie Sanders is like talking positively about ISIS. That's how they view the guy. But the reason I love this quote is because, like, just the assumption that right-wingers have that, like, obviously Bernie would be horrible for the economy. Like, are you fucking kidding? What part about having universal health care, having free child care, for example, higher taxes on the wealthy, more unions, higher minimum wage, like, what part of that, or regulation to make sure our financial companies are sound and not going to fucking implode because they're over-leveraged? What part of that screams unstable to you? What part of that screams economic crash for you? The closest analog to Bernie Sanders historically is what? FDR. FDR is viewed as one of the best presidents of all time. He was elected 4 times. This was before term limits. He had 80% of the House and 80% of the Senate at his peak because he was so beloved. And he led to what's called the golden age of economic expansion in America. Because social democracy breeds stability. Social democracy breeds lower income and wealth inequality, and, you know, everybody gets a more fair shot at the American dream. And so that's why you had a situation where for decades and decades and decades, post the New Deal and post FDR, everybody was happy, right? The system was functioning way better. Obviously, racial issues aside, because racial issues were still a scourge, obviously, at the very least until the Civil Rights Act, but probably longer. But economically speaking, like, this was the best time in American history. But I know the reality. The reason why it's hard for guys like this to say it is because his fucking taxes would go up. Sorry, buddy. You can't get your 4th vehicle. You're going to have to stick with 3. You can't get your 3rd vacation home. You're going to have to be okay with 2. Like, this is what you have to say to these guys is like, yeah, are you going to pay a little more taxes? Sure. But you know what happens as a result of that? You don't have countrymen who are grabbing pitchforks and ready to run into the street and ready to burn down your vacation home, right? That's the trade-off. You get stability, you get more people being successful and fulfilled in the system, and the slight downside is, sorry, you got to pay a little bit extra in taxes. But the fact of the matter is this, and this is the truth about Bernie Sanders. Bernie came out and condemned Trump's tariffs. Why? Because fucking of course he did. He's not an idiot. What Trump is doing is literally universal across the board tariffs, and he's not even doing reciprocal tariffs. These tariffs are like 4 times higher than that. So this is like a global economy crashing move where you just make our consumer goods skyrocket in price. The kinds of tariffs that Bernie support are the kinds of tariffs that I support. They're literally direct targeted tariffs on specific industries that you pair with industrial policy here at home to build out our factories in certain industries. And so you make the U.S. more competitive with those other companies in other countries. But what Trump is doing is just literally slapping tariffs across the fucking board, even shit we can't grow here, like coffee, for example. We can't grow coffee here. Well, if you're tariffing coffee and we can't even create a coffee industry here, all you're doing is raising the price of coffee for everybody who drinks coffee in America, which is like almost fucking everybody. So I love this note, the idea of this person that, like, well, obviously Bernie would be horrible, but he wouldn't even be as bad as this. It's like, he wouldn't be horrible. He would be phenomenal. But yeah, you'd have to pay a higher tax rate, and you don't like that. But guess what? That would lead to economic stability, economic growth, you having happier countrymen. We'd get rid of extreme poverty. People would be climbing that economic ladder, safely getting into the middle class. The working class would get into the middle class effectively. Everybody would be better off, right? The self-report of happiness level would skyrocket in this country. But look, the point is, this is quite a tell about the moment we're in. When you have big-name Republicans close to the White House being like, Bernie would be better for the country than this. What that means is they realize Trump's a psychopath. Trump's totally unhinged. He does not listen to reason. He's married to this goofy-ass idea of tariffs bringing about a golden age. And despite all the evidence to the contrary, he's going to fucking continue. And they realize, oh my God, he will not adjust no matter what the evidence says, no matter what is happening in reality. He doesn't care how many people get hurt. He doesn't care how many people go bankrupt. He doesn't care how much prices skyrocket. He doesn't care how many people lose their jobs. He doesn't care how many people lose their 401ks. He doesn't fucking care. And they look at this and they go, oh, well, I can't work with that. Yeah, no shit. You can't fucking work with that. No fucking shit. You can't work with that. Wow. But this is where we're at. This is where we're at. So you got people close to Republican MAGA commentators. You got people close to the Republican White House. And you got average Joes and Janes. And you've got like the CEO of GameStop. All these people at once are going, what is happening? What is happening? And the theories, there's a lot of fucking theories out there, man. And honestly, if I'm telling you the truth, I think there's a grain of truth in most of them, right? The idea that Trump is doing this for personal profit, shorting the market, making money as the stock market tanks, I think that's probably part of it. I think it's probably part of it that he's looking to give out exemptions, even though he says he's not, in return for a piece of the action, like a mafia boss. I think that's part of it too. I also think he is ideologically sort of married to the idea of tariffs, and he actually might think to some extent this will bring back American manufacturing. Even though it won't, because he doesn't do industrial policy. He's doing economic austerity at home at the same time he's doing tariffs. There will be no revitalization of American manufacturing if you're not willing to spend tax money on building out that base. Biden did it, by the way. He froze the funding, right? So it's everything. It's evil, it's nefarious, it's corrupt, and it's also incredibly incompetent and stupid. And everybody's catching on to it, bro. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.